welcome to the virtual tour of our current exhibition on Seeing Segovia. This exhibition looks at artwork created by A&H founder Jules Andre Smith during a trip he took 100 years ago to Segovia, Spain. During this trip, Smith created countless works detailing the ancient city's streets, people, and culture. Through these works, one can not only see the journey of a world traveler, but also of an artist seeking to capture exact moments of light and life as he was first experiencing it. Jules Andre Smith began etching in 1908 and continued to master the art form for close to 30 years. Before his exploration of etching, Smith received a bachelor's and master's degree in architecture from Cornell University. When Smith first ventured into the art of etching, he was working at his own architectural practice in New York. As his newfound interest in etching grew, he eventually began to embark upon an after-hours program of self-instruction completely on his own. Progress with the self-taught endeavor was at times slow and difficult, but he quickly mastered the craft, and in 2 years, Smith had sufficient confidence in his work to display it publicly, and for the first time at his alma mater, Cornell University, in 1910. Smith quickly began to see success in his new medium and began to enjoy profitable contacts with New York print dealers, and it was not long until he was convinced that to etch and to go abroad for new material was far pleasanter than to try to build up an architectural practice for which he had little enthusiasm. Smith thus began to winter in Europe and traveled extensively in France and Italy before venturing to Spain in 1921. In 1921, Smith embarked on a new exploration and departed towards a city he had never visited before, Segovia. Before this, Smith first stopped in Paris, as he considered it a much-beloved travel destination. Smith was no stranger to France, but this particular visit was quite sentimental, as the last time he had been to Paris was during World War I, when he was stationed as a war artist with the Expeditionary Forces. One can imagine the relief that Smith must have experienced returning to the city that was so recently war-torn and finding it return to its former glory. It is no wonder, then, when visiting with this work, titled Paris, viewers gain a sense of relaxation and calm. The airy brushstrokes and lines showcase an uninhibited form and approach to creating this classic Parisian scene. This easiness is also reflected in Smith's short story on Seeing Segovia, where he recounts passing the afternoons in cafes and giving a one-man toast to the memory of the AEF and jolly days of war. Smith did eventually leave the peaceful Parisian atmosphere behind and made his way to Spain via a train ride that lasted some 24 hours in flight. The relaxation that Smith experienced in Paris was quickly replaced with a stunning realization of the weather at his final destination. What he thought was to be a warm, tropical paradise turned out to be a chilly mountain town. Despite this initial shock, Smith quickly regained his appreciation for exploring new places. During all of his travels, Smith would explore each city in depth, finding inspiration among side streets, courtyards, and the city's inhabitants. Luckily for our viewers, Smith was eager to crack what he called the riddle of Segovia's dimension, and found the city to be an endless source of inspiration, despite its weather. An aspect of the city that Smith instantly took to was its shape. In his short story, Smith describes the city as being ship-shaped, and that from the castle the ground rises gradually to where the cathedral stands with its tower, a golden shaft that dominates the entire town and answers admirably at the ship's mast. Beyond the cathedral, the ground slopes away to where the square tower of St. Martin's marks the stern of our vessel. You can realize this description when viewing these works here. In these works, Smith took his appreciation of the city's architecture and shape and transformed it into 3 artistic realizations. 2 of these works are true cityscapes, while Segovia No. 2, on the other hand, shows a very different approach to the same scenery. These multi-style imaginings are trademarks of Andre Smith's, as he famously never stuck to one particular method and rather preferred to create freely in whichever way he decided upon that day. These works here are examples of the beginnings of the artistic method that Smith would continue throughout his artistic career. These works also demonstrate Smith's approach to etching, as both Segovia and Segovia No. 2 are realizations based on the graphite on paper sketch. Smith described his etching process as beginning with the creation of around 50 to 60 drawings or sketches, and out of those he was able to make at least a dozen plates. This extraordinary production of sketches left Smith with an abundance of references to ensure his final plates were truly captured moments. A wonderful example of Smith's power of capturing a moment can be seen in Donkey Alley. Here, the viewer can see the vision in Smith's preliminary sketches fully translated into his intricate etching. In the watercolor, the alleyway is brought to life with the emphasis of natural light that washes over the Segovians and donkeys alike. This same atmosphere is mirrored in the final impression, but with subtle differences that can be attributed to the many other sketches that Smith would have created at the same scene. Smith was enthralled with the culture of Segovia and was particularly fond of the donkeys that inhabited most of the city, creating many depictions of the courtyards and alleyways that were filled with them. Donkeys were not his sole source of inspiration, however, as Smith was equally captivated with the Segovian people. There are numerous examples of the studies Smith made of the people of Segovia throughout the exhibition, but the Shepherd of Segovia particularly captures the culture and charm of the ancient city. In this work, the viewer gains a full sense of the city, with the shepherd resting from his arduous day, with the cathedral standing watch behind him. Here, Smith's interest in his subject matter, as well as his mastery of capturing a moment in time, is apparent. When looking up closely, the viewer is allowed to fully appreciate the intricate lines and details that Smith applied to all of his works. Thank you for joining us on this virtual tour. For more information about J. Andre Smith, visit our museums Thursday through Sunday, and join us for architecture and gallery tours at the Art and History Museums of Maitland.